Welcome to the Darkest Dungeon mod spotlight, where I will showcase a modded hero and explain their mechanics. Today we will be taking a look at the Druid, created by Daoron. The Druid is in tune with nature and channels this love to conjure vines, thorns, and healing mists. She will not stand idle while the corruption spreads out from the ancestors' estate. The Druid is a backline healer and support. She provides moderate regeneration to her party and respectable disruption for her enemies. The Druid has a pretty good stat line for a support. She has above average dodge, speed, blight and bleed resistance, disease resistance, and debuff resistance. Her health, her crit, her damage, her stun resistance, and move resistance are all below average. Her trap disarm is not that great. Of note especially is her high speed allows her to get stuns or her shuffle before the enemy gets to act pretty frequently, especially if you want to dedicate a speed trinket to her. The Druid's first skill is Drain Life. It has a 10% damage penalty, and when you hit an enemy, it heals the Druid for 1 point for 2 rounds, and at max rank it heals 3 points for 3 rounds. This is just like the Festival's Judgment. It's just get a little extra damage on enemies and heal up your healer without having to waste a turn just casting a healing spell on your healer. The Druid's second skill is Healing Mists. This is your party heal. At rank 1, you heal everyone for 1 point for 1 round, and you buff their dodge by 4 points for 1 round. But as you rank it up, the duration of those buffs go up. So the heal goes up to 1 point for 5 rounds, and the dodge bonus goes up to 6 points of dodge for 5 rounds. So this can be a good way to increase your party's survivability over a number of rounds. If you're taking a lot of heat, you can just cast Healing Mist round after round, and your dodge is going to stack up while also sustaining your party. Additionally, that regen effect is going to be pretty effective on anyone who has increased healing received, because that 1 point of healing is going to turn into 2 points of healing, and suddenly you're doubling the amount of healing they're getting. The Druid's third skill is Tremors. It does a small amount of damage to all enemies. It clears corpses, then it shuffles the enemy for right now and for 1 round after that, and it debuffs their speed by 2 to 4 points. This is a good way to just mix up the enemy party if they have some crossbowmen in the back, or some of the melee guys in the front who can't function well in the back. This throws them for a loop, and you might be able to get some advantageous attacks from them by shuffling them up this way.
Their formation is broken. Maintain the offense.
The Druid's fourth skill is Summon Thorn. This functions much like the Plague Doctor's Incision, in that it's just kind of an emergency attack if you end up in the front 2 rows. It has a damage penalty of 10%, and it applies 1 to 3 points of bleed and blight. So it can be effective to try to get dots on enemies regardless of what they're resistant to, but typically you're going to be in the back line and not using this.
A decisive pummeling.
The Druid's fifth skill is Rejuvenate. This is her single target heal. Heal any ally, including herself, for 1 point immediately, and then it gives them a regen of 2 points for 2 turns, up to 4 points for 3 turns at max rank. Druid's next skill is Cleansing Rain. It cures all your allies of Blight and Bleed, and it heals them for 0 to 4 stress. So when you first pick it up, it looks like it just cures Blight and Bleed, but as you rank it up, it starts gaining that stress heal. It's a reasonable way to remove a little extra stress once you've ranked it up a bit, but primarily you're going to be using it to remove Blight and Bleed when you're in the areas where multiple people are going to be hit by this. It feels really satisfactory when you can use this and clear off 3 or 4 damage over time effects. The Druid's last skill is Entangle. It has a 70% damage penalty. It can target only the front 3 positions of the enemy team. It has a moderate stun effect. It also debuffs them by 2 to 4 speed for 3 turns. And it marks them for just 1 turn. Unfortunately, that's really not a long time. A lot of times I mark someone with the Druid first because the Druid's speed is so high, and then the enemy acts and the mark falls off before any of my other guys can even take advantage of it. But if you're careful about when the enemy is going and when your guys are going, you might be able to mark someone and sneak ahead in with your bounty hunter or your arbalist and get a lot of damage in. Plus you get the stun on top of it, so not benefiting from the mark all the time still feels pretty okay. The Druid has some pretty decent camping skills. The first one is Loud Complaining. For 2 time points, you reduce the Druid's stress by 25, and all your companions gain 5 stress. This is good if your Druid has way more stress than everyone else. You can help even it out a bit and try to keep your Druid from getting afflicted. Our next skill is Commune with Nature. For 4 time points, you gain 30% scouting chance, reduced chance of being surprised, and increased chance of surprising monsters. This is a great way to get a leg up on your enemies. You can scout out the area and catch them off guard. Our next camping skill is Make Soup. For 3 time points, you heal your party for 25%, and they gain 20% disease and debuff resistance for 4 battles. Mostly, I think I would use this just if I needed the extra healing, but getting 20% disease or debuff resistance is okay. Maybe you can use it in the Crimson Court to help try to prevent people from getting infected with the curse. Her next camping skill is Cleanse Campsite. For 4 time points, you prevent nighttime ambush and heal everyone in your party for 10 stress. This seems like a great camping skill. If you don't have someone else who has different benefits with a nighttime ambush prevention that you'd prefer, like increased scouting chance or something, maybe you can go with this and just reduce your stress. Some other bits of information of note: the Druid is non-religious. She does not benefit from any districts. Because her healing abilities are mostly regen effects, giving her increased healing trinkets are less effective than it would be on a Vestal or an Occultist. But that also means you kind of open yourself up to giving her other trinkets. You can give her a damage trinket if you want to do a little extra, or a stun trinket, or a move skill chance trinket if you want to focus on using tremors. So you have some options. The kind of skill set that I would typically go for would include rejuvenate and entangle. I think these are probably some of her best skills. I keep them on most of the time. Other than that, drain life is a good way to do some damage and heal up, and maybe tremors just so I have like a corpse clear, shuffle the enemy. But I think those two skills are kind of flexible. You can go cleansing rain or healing mist. It's kind of up to you. In conclusion, the Druid has a great selection of healing and control abilities, and the flexibility to focus on what your team needs. She never does a lot of damage since all of her attacks have a damage penalty on them, but her utility is fantastic. She makes it much easier to keep your party alive, especially on Death's Door since the regeneration effects prevent them from dying to bleeds and blights, and her kit is generic enough that she can fit well into most team compositions. Nature will rise against you.
Their formation is broken.